John Williams is probably the most well-known and arguably the greatest film composer to ever walk the planet, and his track record of memorable movie themes is really second to none. He's the creative force behind the music of Star Wars, Jaws, Home Alone, Schindler's List, Indiana Jones, and of course, the first 3 Harry Potter movies. For the Harry Potter movies, Williams went all out creating a multitude of themes, all representing different parts of the story. I mean, just in the first movie, we have themes for Harry's friends and family, for Quidditch, for mischief, and even a lovely alma mater style theme for Hogwarts. Williams brought even more life into the franchise in the next 2 films, introducing themes for Fawkes the Phoenix, Buckbeak, and even an eerie soundscape to accompany the introduction of Dementors in the 3rd movie, which I'm baffled was not used by the series' later composers. But the theme that ended up becoming the most important and recognizable theme, and in fact the only theme to make a substantial appearance after Williams' exit from the franchise, is Hedwig's theme. This became the principal theme for Harry Potter, and for good reason. The famous celeste opening gives us a sparse but memorable theme that introduces us to the magic of the world, while the frantic violin runs represent Hedwig's flight. And while I've always loved this theme, there's another theme that Williams wrote specifically for The Prisoner of Azkaban which has always caught my attention. A theme that strips the main theme of its chaos and eccentricity and gets us closer to Harry himself. You see, in the 3rd movie, Harry's in an unusual position of not really having to worry about the series' main villain, Voldemort. In fact, this is the only movie where Voldemort doesn't make an on-screen appearance in some way. Harry's main concern is the movie's perceived villain, Sirius Black, who we later learn is actually Harry's godfather and just wants the best for him. This makes part of the movie feel less consequential and more expository. Harry learns more deeply about his past, about himself, and the film's overall energy is just different from the first 2 and all the ones that follow. Of course, this is partly due to the film's director, Alfonso Cuarón, who clearly sought to bring a different atmosphere to the series. But this also produced a big shift in the music, and one of the resulting themes we get from this change is beautiful. We hear the first echoes of this theme just 6 minutes into the movie, right after Harry blows up his aunt and runs upstairs frustrated. He kicks his dresser and then sees the photo on his nightstand of his mom and dad, and this theme plays almost silently in the background. This lays the ground for what the theme represents, a window to the past. While it shares some similarities with Hedwig's theme, this theme is more introspective, more bare. It's deeply personal to Harry and doesn't have all the bells and whistles that Hedwig's theme has. In fact, the next time we hear this theme is when Harry is told that he can't go to Hogsmeade with Hermione and Ron, and that he has to stay back alone. As Lupin joins Harry on the bridge and tells him more about his mother, the theme plays softly in the background on a Baroque recorder.
Mother was there for me at a time when no one else was. Not only was she a singularly gifted witch, she was also an uncommonly kind woman.
This shows how clearly the theme is linked with Harry's family. The theme then comes in again when Harry goes on another walk with Lupin in the woods, this time more fully orchestrated as Harry expresses his concern about the Dementors and whether or not he can fight them off.
Professor, why do the Dementors affect me so? I mean, more than everyone else.
Listen, the Dementors are amongst the foulest creatures.
Then, in perhaps the theme's strongest moment, when Harry defeats his first Dementor, 6 horns sing the theme triumphantly. The orchestra and choir blare, but the melody can be heard piercing through as Harry conquers the Dementor. And as Harry explains to Lupin the memory that he was using of his parents, the theme is carried gently by an oboe.
And Mum. Seeing their faces. They were talking to me. Just talking.
I think this is a great moment not only for this theme and for this movie, but for the whole series. Harry's beginning to break free from the burden of his past, while also honoring his parents for their sacrifice. The theme doesn't reappear much until Harry is brought face to face with the past in the form of his godfather, Sirius Black. After Harry learns that Sirius is actually on his side, he and Sirius get a brief moment of repose to talk about a future life together, reunited.
I'll never forget the first time I walked through those doors. It'll be nice to do it again as a free man.
Finally, when Sirius is forced to leave Harry and tells him that
The ones that love us never really leave us.
the theme flourishes for its last time as Sirius flies away with Buckbeak. The theme, of course, works perfectly for this movie, but it's also masterfully crafted in terms of its musicality. And I want to find a way to capture the genius of Williams' writing by actually breaking the theme down and looking at its parts. It might first serve us well to think about the general mood of the theme. It's not very tense at all, and in fact it's quite peaceful. Part of the reason this is because the theme utilizes the Aeolian mode, also known as natural minor. Usually when composers use the minor scale, they make the 7th degree sharp, which creates a strong sense of resolution when moving from a tense-sounding dominant chord to a more resolute tonic chord. In the Aeolian mode, however, the 7th degree stays natural, remaining a whole step away from the tonic. This melody, being in D Aeolian, is calm and intimate, divorced from some of the excesses of Hedwig's theme. This fits well with Harry's state of mind in the film. As we know, Voldemort is not really an immediate threat at this point, and Harry is more concerned with Dementors and Sirius Black, both things that force him to relive and think about his past in a more introspective way. The melody therefore instills a sense of equanimity, while still carrying the great emotional weight of the past. But what about the melody itself? What is it about this melody specifically that makes it flow, makes it sound like it's meant to go the way that it does? To answer this question, I'm going to do a melodic analysis of the theme, using some terms and techniques from Alan Belkin's book, Musical Composition, Craft and Art, which is a great read and has been an important book for my own development as a composer. I'll link the book in the description, along with Belkin's incredibly informative YouTube channel. One of the very first things Belkin lays out in his book is the concept of motive, which he defines as a very short musical pattern that is characteristic and memorable. Motives are digestible, usually a couple seconds or bars long, and have something about them that distinguishes them from the surrounding music. Let's take a look at the first couple bars of this theme and see what might fit under this definition. And by the way, yes, this weird 6/8, 9/8 alternating is actually how Williams notates this in the score. Why he didn't just make it in 3/8 like Hedwig's theme, I have no idea, but he is John Williams and I'm just making a YouTube video, so. Anyways, let's listen to the beginning of this melody. First, we can see that, like Hedwig's theme, we have this pickup beat that leads us into our first motive. This leap is a characteristic trait of the melody, but I wouldn't quite call just leaping up a fifth a motive in and of itself. Instead, I see these first two bars as a motive, and these next two bars as a variation on that motive. We'll call this motive A, and we'll call its variation A prime. Moving along, we have this part. Do you think you can pick out what motive B is here? I actually think motive B is just this single measure. The rhythmic figure and contour of this measure are repeated twice, right after, descending to create a nice conclusion to the melody. The dotted rhythm in the beginning, plus the large leap at the end, is what gives this motive its character. What about this bar, you ask? Well, it's very similar to A right at the start, but it's more similar to B at the end, so I kind of see this as a transitional bar. It's tailing off of what we just heard, while also introducing new material that we are about to hear more of. The A motive gives us mostly stepwise movement, but the B motive gives us leaps of fourths and fifths that interrupt our expectations. In addition to this, Williams's variation of the A motive in these first four bars is done expertly. Let's look at the contour of this first bar of our A motive. We have this motion, down, up, up. Now let's see A prime. Up, down, down. What Williams is doing here is called melodic inversion. The motive moves by basically the same intervals, just in opposite directions. And yet still, Williams makes sure to bring it all together by landing on the same note at the end of the measure, to lead us into the final measure, which is identical in both motives. When we make adjustments to a motive like this, it's called motivic variation. It allows us to keep the listener interested with new material, while also sharing similarities with what we've already heard. Whether or not Williams is actually thinking about melodic inversions or motivic variation when he writes this stuff isn't really the point. This is simply what can be noticed when you look for what makes great melodies tick. Williams has written some of the world's most recognizable melodies, so the guy probably has it running on automatic by now. But I'm pretty sure there was a time during Williams' studies where he analyzed the melodies of great composers that came before him and was inspired by their techniques. No, I'm like really sure. Regardless, this melody is very well crafted, and it's a perfect melody to introduce you guys to the concept of melodic analysis. It's also a great lesson for aspiring film composers, because it really is a masterclass in how to write a theme that fits within the context of a movie. Again, many thanks to Alan Belkin for this framework. His book is linked in the description. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today, and I just want to mention really quick that all of the software and gear I use to produce these videos is linked down in the description. Some links will give me a little kickback, so if you're looking to grab these products anyway, you're in the right place. Anyways, thanks again for watching, and of course, keep making music.